Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Lars and the Real Girl, starring Ryan Gosling, Emily Mortimer, Paul Schneider, Patricia Clarkson, and, and directed by Craig Gillespie. Now, before I get into this movie, I have never seen this movie before. I've seen the ending once, but I never saw the whole movie, I'll say. This is my first in two viewings of this whole movie since I think ever. So let's get into the movie. Lars Lindstrom, played by Ryan Gosling, gets a visitor from his pregnant sister in law, Karen, played by Emily Mortimer, as she says she would like him to eat breakfast with her, and her husband, Lars, aka Lars' brother, Gus, played by Paul Schneider. And first he goes to church and helps Mrs. Gruner put some flowers in her trunk in her car and gives him a flower and throws it out when he talks to Margot, and he seems shy as he comes home and he says he can't do it as he's lonely. And I'm actually afraid for this guy because he seems depressed. And Ryan Gosling does a good job at pulling off loneliness as he's depressed. And that is how much I care for this protagonist. Lars goes to church the next day, and his desk partner, whom I've never got his name, but as Margot comes in, and he comes home as night, and Karen asks him to join them for dinner. And I do like Emily Mortimer as an actress, and her character is nice to watch in this movie. While she is worried about Lars and Gus, seeming like he's been asked about Lars's privacy, and asks Lars to move in with them. And I do like these characters as they're very relatable. And there were times the dialogue was awkward, but hell, I'm going along with the movie. 6 weeks later, Lars gets a package as he receives a mannequin, which is named Bianca, which he names Bianca. And this movie is well made, as it is better than the last movie I reviewed for the show, Mr. Woodcock, the director. I mean, as that was director Craig Gillespie's worst. Well, we have dumb money to find out, but I don't know. And this is one of his better works. He introduces Bianca to Gus and Karen, as Gus thinks he's crazy while Karen goes along with it. And I can relate to Lars, as I've had toys that were my friends when I was younger. But the only difference is I was like 5 to 10 years old, and he's like 27 years old, based on what I heard from the dialogue. But by Gus, and I wasn't insane like that, but Gus thinks Lars is insane, which is something I do not believe if I had a kid around 5 to 10 years old that talks to his toys. I think that's normal, but I know about a 27-year-old. I wouldn't call him insane, but and he asks Karen to give her some change of clothes and to sleep in a guest room. And Karen makes an appointment with Dr. Dogmar, played by Patricia Clarkson, but I'll go with the movie as I'm led to believe Lars never talked to his toys when he was younger, as he wants to try it out, and the concept is pretty good. They go to Dr. Dogmar, and she tells Karen and Gus to go along with it as Lars has a delusion, and Gus is against it, but Karen goes along with it, and these are good, relatable characters in my opinion. Lars has to go to work the next day while Gus is telling Lars what she is, and she's a plastic doll. And the writing in this movie is pretty good, and the acting is well done, as I admire what director Craig Gillespie does with this material. When Lars gets into work, he gets an invitation to a party by the front desk and hears Margot stole his desk partner's live action figures, and she'll return it slowly, or else her teddy bear will get the will of death. And he decides to go, and he'll bring Bianca to the party, and everybody at Gus's work laugh at Lars, and Lars brings Bianca to church, and he gets stares about it. And I do like how normal everybody's acting around Bianca, with some kids staring like crazy, I mean. And he takes Bianca to his treehouse from when they were kids, and I do like the chemistry that Ryan Gosling has with Bianca, and it is very beautiful to watch, and some awkward scenes at times, but I enjoy it. Lars visits Dr. Dogmar about Bianca's life, and Gus and Karen help Bianca, and this movie is beautiful to watch. As spoiler alert for the end of the show, I do like the movie quite a bit. Lars and Bianca go to the party of the front desk lady, and Margot helps out with Bianca. As they're enjoying the party, every single coworker stare awkwardly and asks Lars such inappropriate questions that was super painful at times as well. And we move on to the next day, and Lars reads a book with Bianca and takes her to her parents' grave to see his parents, and he goes to Dr. Dogmar about what is going on between him and Bianca and has a meltdown, and I'm still going with the movie at this point. Surprise. Bianca volunteers at the hospital and reads for children, and Gus and Karen talk about if Lars will ever feel better, and Gus has a monologue about him and Lars as kids, which did feel sad while Lars is at work and sees Margot chatting with the coworker, and Lars becomes a little too controlling of what Bianca does, while Karen and another woman put makeup on and make her hair look good. And the woman takes Bianca to her volunteer shift, and Lars starts to be in a bad mood, and Karen gives Lars her monologue about how people care for him and Bianca as they care and help him out with Bianca for Lars. And this is good acting by Emily Mortimer, as I felt sorry for him. And Gus talks with Lars about helping out with Bianca, and this is when the movie starts to get sad by this point. Lars meets Margot's boyfriend Eric briefly, and he goes to Dr. Dogmar's office and confesses he proposed to Bianca, but unfortunately she said no. They continue to fight like cats and dogs, and I'm starting to feel so sad for Lars at this point in the movie. Lars' desk partner hangs Margot's teddy bear, and Lars talks with Margot as she and Eric broke up, and he decides to comfort her while putting her bear back alive. And they decide to go bowling together and bump into a few more co-workers and bowl together and have a good time together. And I like that scene as it made me happy from all the sadness from earlier as well as the end of the movie. But I'll get there when I get there. Dr. Dogmar tells Lars Bianca is sick and isn't getting any better as Lars tries to keep her alive despite she's a doll, and wakes up the next day and tells Gus and Karen Bianca is unconscious, and Lars calls 911 to take her to the hospital. And Dr. Dogmar tells them, she is sick as she's dying, and Lars stays with her, and everybody that knows her is talking about it as it's depressing news. And she gets home and sleeps with Lars as the next day comes, and Lars sees all the flowers in the porch as everybody that knows her is praying for them. At one point, 3 ladies from church visit Lars while they knit and start eating again, while Gus and Karen invite Lars and Bianca to the lake. And while they're there, Lars, and this is the part I remember seeing in the movie back in 2007 in theaters. I snuck in at the end, so please forgive me for that. Lars drowns Bianca, and he's very sad about it. He'll never see her again. And I felt so bad for Lars as he prepares a funeral for Bianca at the church he goes to, and he asks everyone to not wear black, which is kind of funny in a strange way, as he treated her like a real person and buried her under the ground. And this climax more than anything made me feel so bad for him, as it was a sad ending to such a beautiful romantic movie. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 8.1 out of 10. I do like the characters, as Ryan Gosling does a good job at feeling loneliness and depression, and he wants to talk to a toy, so I related with him, and the concept to this movie is pretty good, with very good and relatable characters. The writing is pretty good in this movie, as the acting is well done, and the movie is well made in my opinion, and I admire what director Craig Gillespie does with his material, as Ryan Gosling's chemistry with Bianca is beautiful to watch with some awkward scenes, but I go with the movie as I enjoy it. The movie is well made with really good performances and an interesting story, and this is a solid recommendation for those who are fans of romance or Ryan Gosling. And I do like the movie quite a bit, as it's beautiful to watch, as well as there were times the movie was sad by the second half, but I still enjoy the movie for what it was, which is a beautiful romance story between a guy and his doll. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with his take on Fright Night, the 2011 film. And until then, Have a good night, Bianca.